Okay, so we are ready for questions, please. So I think Raja had a question which he didn't interrupt you, but Raja, you can go on and ask the question.
Hello, Mani. This is Raja. I just have a very quick, one small question. While these either turbulence increases or these droplets, the spray, as it co-moves with the flow, will these droplets ever evaporate or do they still maintain their
So
particular size?
evaporation was not a factor for the experimental conditions we had in the lab, but it would be a factor in the real cloud.
I see. I see.
But as far as the operating conditions, the temperature and humidity of the lab conditions, evaporation was not a factor.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great talk.
Any other question, please? You can raise your hand or you can ask by unmuting your mic. Okay, it looks like, okay, Aditya has a question. Aditya, please go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Verma. Thank you, Professor Mathur, for the talk. I have a few questions. If I may, can I ask more than one question?
Yeah,
right
yes,
now?
please.
Okay. First of all, sorry, I missed the first part. What is the motivation of the study? Is it fundamental or is it an application to something?
So one of the main applications we had in mind was the warm rain initiation. Let me go to the slide. We were, at least in the beginning, motivated by this warm rain initiation problem where the droplet size growth at small diameters in clouds can be explained reasonably by condensation. It's sufficiently fast to match observations. Similarly, very large droplets, because of their different settling velocities, they have collisions. So gravity enhanced settling velocity collisions or difference in settling velocity, and then that causes collisions that can explain droplet size growth for sufficiently large droplets. But there is this gap between around 30 microns and 80 microns for which you need another mechanism to explain how the droplet sizes can grow sufficiently fast to explain how rapidly warm rain initiation occurs. So, and background airflow turbulence has been suggested as one mechanism. There are several works. Nice review and a discussion is given in these two references here. So we went about setting up a lab experiment to investigate this mechanism.
Thank you. The other question is towards the later half or later part of the talk, you mentioned a plot where as you change the number density, as you change the cases, there's a sudden change at a certain number density.
Yes.
This one. Just out of curiosity, as an experimentalist, did you get lucky or were you expecting such a behavior?
We were not, no. So these were truly experimental studies in the sense that we went in saying, let's capture these trends. So we were motivated by the first part where we identified this optimum turbulence intensity. But a natural follow-up was that how do those trends depend on the initial droplet field characteristics that we are going to have? And we expected that, yes, on an average, if you increase the droplet number density, you are going to have an increase in the droplet collisions. That's a trend that we would expect. But we had no a priori reason to see this sudden increase in the droplet size growth rate.
Right. And concerning the long distance telescope method, the images, were they analyzed through an algorithm in MATLAB or was there a manual determination of?
Shyam could provide more details. So we used these edge detection algorithms to capture these droplet boundaries and also existing algorithms. I can share the literature to track these individual droplet boundaries. So in some sense, it was manual to establish the entire procedure for individual images, and then we could go through it for the entire set of images.
Yes, but the reason I asked is when you look at the distances between droplets, this is a three-dimensional field, and I'm sure you have a very small depth of field of your setup. But as soon as you now put the images in MATLAB, even the blurred images, out of focus droplets might come into picture and your distances would get corrupted, or it won't be exactly the same because of its being a three-dimensional field. So any comments?
I completely agree with you. So the problem does exist, but only what do I say? The only factor in our favor is that this field of view is around 5 mm by 5 mm, and it's a mean flow dominated flow field. So this out of plane movement is not huge. You don't expect that they would just leave this depth of focus very rapidly, but the problem does exist. There are droplet pairs which have actually left our depth within this capture. We just have to ignore them, or we don't even know about them. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, not more about the droplets that leave your plane of analysis, but the ones that exist inside but are not. When, for example, you get the distance in a couple of slides later, you get the distance between droplets.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a bigger droplet, this, for example, if I look at the second image, there's a big droplet in the middle, which is not really in the plane, but it's there.
Yeah.
And your algorithm will probably detect it as a droplet. And if you take the distance from this big droplet to something which is nearby, it would give you a distance which is not a true distance, because it's you're not taking into account the fact that it is out of focus.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So I agree with you, but maybe I will ask Shyam if there is a smaller detail that I'm missing. Shyam, if you're online, is there a smaller detail that I'm missing on?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before each experiment, actually, we are calibrating the field of view. So we are using a glass plate with dots engraved in that. So we actually move this plate in the region of interest. Say like once it's focused, we'll move to few millimeter away from the focal plane, and we'll see what actually the distance, and we calibrated that distance with the shadow that we got from the rods. So we actually had that calibration curve. So even though we can get a small variation in the axial location of these droplets, as well as the diameters. So I think I can share that paper. Actually, we followed a paper, so I can share that paper.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you, Professor Mathur. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Aditya, you know his email address, Aditya's email, or you guys exchange? So I mean,
I will write him an email.
You request to money. Okay, great. Okay, any other question, please? I don't see any other hand. Okay, so I will ask some question myself. So can you go to 19, slide 19, Mani? One before that. Yeah, here 19.
This one?
Source 19, 19. 19. 19.
No, I went to 19, so I don't know if you are.
I saw 19.
Could you tell me what the content was?
Yeah, so it was this source droplet, which was bigger than your droplet. I didn't understand. Is some breaking of the droplet? Yeah, this one, or 20. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So what is source being bigger, or I didn't quite understand. Source is breaking.
So, source essentially is referring to the region in the droplet sizes that is contributing to collisions.
I see.
So if you think of, yes, so for the region for D less than DC is contributing to the collisions. So those numbers are coming down, and they result in the formation of larger droplets. So correspondingly, those numbers are increasing.
So this is y-axis is a ND. Okay. Okay. So I just want to make, kind of get a clearer picture. So is it that the smaller droplets, they are true that ST is less than 1 Stokes number? So basically you heard of this cross section in physics? They talk about cross section rate. Cross section. This is a cross section. So cross section is essentially for static objects is the area. This is Rutherford experiment, no?
Okay.
So this is just the area. If things don't move, you shoot electrons, and the Rutherford. I mean, this will be a cross section. Okay. Now,
Okay.
since there's turbulence, they start jiggling, and the cross section will be more than the area. Right. I mean, I presume this is what probably Safman and Turner are doing it, and so Taylor diffusion kind of things will increase the cross section just because of jiggling. It's violent jiggling.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
So that may be the U cube actually. In fact, I believe Taylor diffusion may explain U cube. I don't know. I mean, I think it looks 3/2 squared, that type, that seems very reminiscent.
Yeah.
Now, Stokes greater than 1, when the particles become too heavy, then it basically follows the turbulence can't do much.
Mm-hmm.
Then it may be like Rutherford experiment where they are not jiggling anymore. So the thing is suppressed relatively. Okay. So does it make sense? I mean, that kind of well, I can't get the scaling
so
right.
This is a perspective I have not had before. So it's very interesting. So I will discuss with you maybe after the seminar.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can discuss.
It's a line of thought that I have not had before. So, but I will surely discuss with you. I'm quite interested.
Okay, great. Okay, so that's what I wanted to kind of make some model, in my head. And
sure.
Anything else from the audience?